I'd like to start out by reading a poem that I wrote. I dedicate it to Colleen Keegan, who in 2011 invited me to stare into the impossible, and I just dove in, and I haven't looked back since, and my life has been magical because of her. Thank you, Colleen. And this is titled, On All Fours, I Am a Seat for the Wind. Most of my family's international travel is being sent to war. If we judge love, we can kill off anything, dragged by our hair across the days until they make their way inside our dreams where we get to evict them. I want to thank the one who invented knocking on the door, but no one remembers their name to tattoo across my knuckles. I asked an archaeologist about first time she stuck a shovel in the ground. Her answer had same restorative powers as the gravediggers. When we die, we can no longer wipe the muck off. Just lie there becoming shit of the world. Eat a chip of your own dried blood. Join me in the cannibal sunshine, fully persuaded by the world through song. Each morning, a blue jay screams at edge of the clear-cut forest. I scream with her at the bleeding stumps. Scream inside something borrowed, like ocean, like skin. I want to see before I die a mink wearing a human scarf, skin from a handsome hairy leg. Meow. I started writing poetry in 1975. I grew up in a working class town in rural Pennsylvania. All my family were factory workers. At some point, I realized that they had developed a coping mechanism to deal with these jobs, meaning that they're extensions of machines most of the waking hours. Why would you want to be present for that? So they switch the present off and they focus on the past and the future, and they don't know how to turn that back once they leave. When I speak to my family, they're either depressed about the past or anxious about the future. I developed somatic poetry rituals because I realized that this had followed me throughout my life. I was raised by these people. What these somatic poetry rituals do is they anchor me in the present. So when I'm doing them, I can't think of anything else except this writing. And they work, and I love them. But I knew that they could do other things. I knew that I could push this ancient technology of ritual and poetry. I had a boyfriend named Earth. We met at an ACT UP demonstration in the 1980s. We both managed to navigate that whole time period with many friends dying and remaining HIV negative. We were both pretty burnt out, and he decided to go to Tennessee to work in a queer spiritual community in the garden to get his life back. And we don't know who did this, but I'm assuming it was a group of people, went into the cave where he was meditating on this mountainside. And they tied his ankles and wrists together behind him, tortured him, raped him, covered him in gasoline, and burned him alive. I thought, it was the worst day of my life, and I really was convinced that we had already been through the worst days of our lives. A very deep depression set in. I was convinced that these rituals could cure that. And it worked. But while I was doing that ritual, I also realized that I wanted to do other things with this and push it further. I created Resurrect Extinct Vibration. I'm looking at the World Wildlife Association's research that they've done, where they've concluded that we have lost, in my lifetime, I'm in my early 50s now, 60% of the world's wild creatures. They've been wiped out. As I'm driving across the United States, I lie down on the ground and I put speakers down by my body and I flood my body with these sounds. I'm thinking about ecopoetics as not just focusing on degraded soil, air, and water, but also vibrational absence. When a species leaves the planet, they take all of their sounds with them: heartbeat, footfall, breath, cries, gone. There are 9 ingredients. That's one of them. Another one is I have index cards where I make a little scratchy drawing of an animal. Then I leave them in hotel Bibles and community centers, on subways, coffee shops. People start writing back, and I'll say, I am the dusky seaside sparrow, and this nice ornithologist made a recording of me singing. Enjoy. They start writing back, and they want to know who I am, and then I say, my family, we were all wiped out in 1980. Thanks a lot. And they say, hey, fuck you, dude. And I'm like, fuck you. I am the dusky seaside sparrow. And it goes like that. What I'm looking for, though, I want to finish the lower 48 states with this ritual this summer and early fall. Next year, I want to get to Alaska and Hawaii. I'm wondering if maybe somebody might know of residencies in either Alaska or Hawaii. Also, I don't want to end this ritual on this gloomy note. There's a second part, and that's what I want to talk about next. I want to have a vehicle that I can live in for 6 months and 3 years. So half the year for 3 years. And what I'm doing is I'm not just driving around and reinvestigating everything. Falling in love with the world again is what I want to do. And I have solar panels that I have designed under this, and I have shelving in the back to have seedlings of especially the American chestnut tree. The American chestnut tree used to stretch from Maine to Florida. It was wiped out in the 1800s. Researchers claim that squirrels, raccoons, and deer choose the American chestnut 100 to 1 over other acorns and other nuts. I'm also interested in if anybody happens to know of a literary agent for speaking engagements. And I also do a lot of work with museums. I was most recently at the Camden Arts Center for a week working in London and Kunsthal in Bergen. And I just want to thank you all, and thank you so much, Creative Capital. Love you.